to take a closer look at what is actually in that financial regulation bill. You may not know exactly what you're going to be getting here. Here to highlight a few provisions is Brian Gardner, Senior Vice President of Washington Research at Keefe Bruyette Woods. Good morning, Brian. I mean, the media has focused very specifically on some of the big overarching themes in this financial regulatory bill, but there's a lot in here. Tell me what's going to be happening, particularly in the credit card front.
On the credit card front, people were thrown a bit of a surprise last week when an amendment which affects what is referred to as interchange fees passed, an amendment offered by Senator Durbin. Interchange fees being the fees that banks charge merchants to use their services. And it's been a point of contention for merchants for a long time. And the Durbin Amendment would allow the Federal Reserve to regulate what those fees are, what the banks and the processors, Visa, MasterCard, et cetera, charge the retailers, the merchants, on debit card transactions, not credit card transactions, debit card transactions. And those rules set by the Fed would be fees that are reasonable and proportional, is the terms in the amendment. I'll leave it to you to try and figure out what those mean. I haven't quite figured that out yet.
So would Durbin's proposal, as you just laid it out, I mean, does it have a shot of actually becoming law?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think people were very surprised by how much support it got in the Senate. It got more than 60 votes, but it's not part of the House bill. The House bill passed back in December, and it wasn't in the House bill. And so when House and Senate negotiators meet over the next 6 weeks to hammer out the differences between the two, this will be one. Now, the chairman of the House Financial Services Committee, Barney Frank, has never been a fan of interchange regulation. He views it as an industry versus industry issue, not a consumer versus industry issue, and the former is something that he prefers to leave to the market. It's a question that's open and will be decided in the next couple of weeks. Does the chairman fight about this, or does he have other fish to fry and kind of just let this pass through? I don't think there's a clear answer right now. A couple of weeks ago, I think most of us would have discounted the interchange part being even in the Senate bill. So I think people are really scratching their heads in Washington about what will happen in the conference.
So a lot of debate about derivatives has been put off until after the primary that's underway today in Arkansas with Senator Blanche Lincoln. What is your advice here? What's your outlook as to what the new regulation of derivatives is actually going to look like?
Well, as you mentioned, Senator Lincoln has a primary in her home state today. She's being challenged by the state's lieutenant governor, and there's a provision in the bill that she helped author which would force banks to restructure their derivatives business. They couldn't have it in the bank. They'd have to do it in a broker-dealer or another sub. And the conventional wisdom in Washington has been, once Senator Lincoln gets through her primary this evening, that piece will be fixed. The problem is she may not make it through her primary right away. There may be a runoff. So the political implications of this may play out for another 3 weeks, which complicates fixing that part. And it's an issue for banks on whether they have it in a bank, not a bank. It's a funding cost question.
Right, but if I run an airline, am I still going to be able to structure a specialized energy-related product to hedge? Is it going to be prohibited in any way?
It won't be prohibited. It gets more expensive, and the exchange-traded provisions and the clearinghouse provisions probably increase the cost of doing that as well. You're going to have to set more margin, more collateral aside to do these specialized transactions. The cost of business in this bill is going up.
That does seem to be the bottom line as we still wait to see what exactly is in this. We look forward to speaking with you further. Thanks so much, Brian.